Okay, then I can disconnect my SO2P2, and so we're all good there. And then we can remove here our esophageal stethoscope. And we want to continue to monitor our patient, see if we have any refluxes. We want to make sure that our gauze is out of the way. And if we're untying it, we definitely don't want any of that to be in the way of the patient. So the gauze is completely off at this point. Checking for refluxes. Very important to continue checking your patient for refluxes to see when they are waking up. And it's okay if they do wake up slowly. You just want to make sure that you're continuing to monitor your patient. So once we disconnect the patient here, we're going to move the patient into the cage that's got the blanket there. Okay. So if you can just pick up the camera and follow me to the cage. We'll put the patient here into sternal recumbency, and I'll monitor the patient until it wakes up, making sure that we give appropriate nursing care in the meantime.
Okay.
Turn my cardell off, it doesn't need to be on anymore. And we do have a lot of heat for this patient right now. The heat right now is from the heat blanket and this blanket on top here. So we've got a nice cozy area for our patient. And we're going to tuck our patient into some blankets once we go into the crate. Watching for those reflexes. We're starting to get our patient to wake up a little bit here, so I'm going to now turn the oxygen off. Our oxygen is off, and we're disconnecting here. Perfect. Thank you for turning the flow meter off there as well. And now we're just breathing a little bit of room here as we're waking up here. Still don't have a palpebral reflex, and I still don't have a pedal reflex. Now it's important to try not to move the animal a lot when it does have an endotracheal tube in it, so we want to make sure that we're not moving it around a lot at this point, but we are still checking for the reflexes. In a cat here, we're trying to wait until we have a little bit of a swallow reflex as well. You can get a palpebral reflex before you get the swallow reflex, and we don't have that swallow reflex yet. But we want to make sure that we're standing and we're ready. need to continue monitoring your patient as well. As great as it is to have a Cardell, the best way to monitor a patient is by physically listening to the heart rate, to the rest rate, and checking the reflexes, making sure that the patient is in the correct stage and playing of anesthetic. So your ears and your eyes are always the best way to monitor. We've got the cat waking up here now, we've got the swallow reflex, we're going to come out. Okay, our patient is now awake, so now we're going to need to transport the patient. We're going to need to be very gentle. We're going to need to transport. So I'm going to pick the cat up, and if you can please follow me with that. Put our patient in the cage here. We want to prop our patient up, making sure that we consider the patient's warmth. You want to make sure that you've got a really nice, toasty, warm patient. And you're protecting the patient's airway if they can't, which is what the endotracheal tube was doing. But now, you can see we do have a palpebral reflex that has returned. Can you just adjust the camera so it's over here? Just pull that in behind me there. Just for like that. You can see we do have the palpebral reflex that has returned. And our cat is nice and snuggy, nice and warm in the blankets here, and we're going to turn the light off. Now this patient cannot stabilize its head by itself, so I cannot leave this patient on its own until it is actually able to on its own lay in sternal recumbency. So I need to wait until that patient is actually going to be awake enough in order to stay in that position by itself. So I'm just going to relax and sit with the patient, making sure it's warm, continue to check its rest rate, continue to check its heart rate, continue to make sure that we do have all the reflexes that we should have at this stage, and I'm going to continue to make sure that our patient is nice and warm. So I'll take a temperature reading, I'll do a heart rate, rest rate every 5 minutes, and I will also provide appropriate nursing care, meaning I need to take this catheter out, and I also need to make sure that I give post meds to the patient, and then once the patient is able to be in sternal recumbency by itself, I can then call the owners and let them know that everything went really well today.